All right, everybody. Terrence Popp here with another episode of Live from the Lair. All right, now I've talked about this in the past, and it's going to keep coming up as new developments arise, and how new events are basically, going to point the way to craziness that more than likely will ensue in our future. All right, now I am going to talk about Venezuela. All right, we all know they've totally pretty much collapsed, and there's all kinds of crazy shit going on. But one of the main reasons I keep bringing up Venezuela is simply this. In the early 90s, they were literally the third richest nation in the West. Number 3. That's huge. And people who come from a civilization or society or country that has that kind of accomplishments, they develop the mindset of it can't happen here and everything will be fine, yada yada. Which, if you think like that could never happen here and things are too good, you've got another thing coming, because it could happen anywhere. You're not special, and the rules and the laws of the universe and the world apply to you. So, between 1992 and 2001, we literally went from a nation with a standard of living, I would say, was either on par with the United States or slightly better, to a failed state where people are leaving the country in the millions. I think the outflow of people from that country is somewhere between 3 and 5 million people in the past 3 to 4 years. And that upflow has continued, and it's only getting more. It's only getting greater, and we're starting to see the chaos at the southern border because of it, which our current administration is encouraging for other nefarious higher purposes, which is not going to work out for anyone in the end.
Oh, I didn't see you there. I'm reading this book, and it quite possibly is the best book ever written because I'm in it! Winning! If you want to know the rate of return on dating women, you need to buy the Book of Numbers. There's a link in the description, down there in the penis area. Meet Gazer!
In 1997, this is the second one, Venezuela was in a financial position to be the largest purchasers of new F-15 Strike Eagles. Those are very expensive airframes. And they were flexing their basically purse strings, and they wanted to be able to flex their military muscles, which most nations which fall into economic prosperity usually, do. I'm not begrudging them that. I'm just saying, 1997, the middle of the 90s, they were still enjoying a huge amount of financial prosperity. Okay, now, back then, it was, a simple capitalistic market. There was some larger companies and some international companies doing business with the country in regards to the oil businesses and so forth. And, that's the way that shit works. Now, I will say this. Capitalism, socialism, and communism always end in the same places. You wind up with the power being concentrated from a very few at the top, and it just turns into just a redneck nightmare after that. And it doesn't matter how you got there. All right, so just keep that in mind. All right, now in 2001, all right, you'll see this is actually something that happens across the board in every single conversion from one type of government to another, or the failing of a state. They usually happen in certain steps. Now, they don't always happen in order, but this one here is a big one. In 2001, socialism in Venezuela was officially voted in. And one of the main reasons they were able to do this is they promised a whole bunch of free stuff, and how everyone would be guaranteed to get equal opportunity. All right, now in theory that sounds great. All right, but that's where it ends, because I deal in reality, facts, and logic and reason. And I have traveled this world and globe extensively, and I can tell you that nothing on this earth is free. All right, somebody somewhere is either willingly or unwillingly going to provide that for you, whatever it is. Most of the time it's at gunpoint, which is unwittingly. All right. So they basically voted themselves in by promising a bunch of free shit, and usually it's always the same. You got the rich people against the poor people. They want to flip the scales, and all kinds of crazy stuff goes on. To a point, I can understand their rationale, but the people in charge who want this whole thing to be set on its ear have no idea what they're doing, how to recover from that. And, well, basically you can't, because, it all revolves around us being evil, hairless monkeys. And we always revert to our base instincts, which is war, greed, domination, and the endless seek of power. And that's just the way it is. And without checks and balances, it will always go off the rails. Not part of the time, not some of the time, but if you give it enough time, every single time. All right, now 2004, they started giving away healthcare for free, and then they set up a welfare, basically scheme. And one of the main reasons why they did this was to ensure that they would keep getting elected. All right, now Obama set up Obamacare for the so-called healthcare for everyone, and like always, our premiums skyrocketed and the care went down in quality. All right, now they'll tell you in Canada everything's great, and their universal healthcare seems to be working just fine. No, it's not. People have huge waiting lines for stuff that is life-threatening. And a lot of people, when they get to the turn that they waited sometimes 2 or 3 years to get, it's too late. And they die. And they also make decisions who's going to get care and who's not, which is bullshit. But, hey, what can I say? Now, with us in the United States, we had LBJ, who set up the welfare system, which basically supercharged the minority community to just go down the road of failure. It broke up the family, took the man out of the house, and without male leadership, a lot of children just don't have good life outcomes. And you can see it in the stats. 85% of the people in prison, broken homes, drug abuse, criminals, school dropouts, homelessness, what have you. So, youth suicides all have a huge starting point in the family of a single mother. And those are facts. And you can get as pissed off as you want. I don't really care. Now, between 2004 and 2006 in Venezuela, the pressure to nationalize the means of production got up into full swing, and they were basically finishing up that whole just clusterfuck by 2006, 2007. And, they nationalized all of the oil industry and all of the other major industries. In fact, now everything is nationalized. And it's a huge, steaming turd. It's not working out for anyone. All right, they can't hide that fact anymore. That has basically caused unemployment, sank their economy, destroyed their currency, and it just it's a downwards. It's a slippery slope down from there. Now, that's another one here. Nationalization of the means of production is another thing that happens all the time when you convert from a capitalist society to a communist socialist society. Here in the United States, if you recall during the whole coup thing, you got the essential business speech, and where we had governors, mainly in blue states, deciding what businesses could stay open and which ones had to close, even though that is not a power given to any governors. It's not even to the President of the United States. But these governors gave these edicts out, which, for the most part, is helping nationalize industry here in the United States. Now, they're just doing it from a roundabout way. Listen, I'm not an idiot. I can see the writing on the wall, and the end result will be the same. All right, now, 2007, over in Venezuela, they had a huge crackdown in the media. So basically, they took over all of their media sources and outlets and turned it into one huge mouthpiece for the government there, the socialist / communist government. That is happening here as well. In 2012, Obama passed an act which allowed the media companies to face propaganda inwards at its own citizens. Every newspaper, radio, and other news outlet is owned basically by half a dozen corporations, which determine exactly what you can and cannot talk about or see, i.e. big tech is now involved, and there are words you can't even say on the big tech platforms or you will be banned or censored. And I'm just going to let you know that in the early 1900s, when communism was coming up in Russia, the censorship was not nearly as bad as it is now. Now, this is the fucking America. We need to take steps against this because this is unacceptable, and this is how you breed more sheeple. 2007, more free shit. Higher education given away for free to everyone. Now, that is collapsed, and most of the professors can't afford to teach their classes, and they're starving with everyone else. All right, now here we go, the next one. In 2009, this has to happen for the people in power to stay there, is they have to take away guns. They have to disarm the population. And that was done in Russia. It was done in Germany. It was done in northern Vietnam, Cambodia, and other nations run by a dictator, they basically take away the ability of the general population to resist. And they do that by taking away the guns. All right, now 2010. Now, despite Venezuela sitting atop, I think, the third largest oil reserve on the planet, and they nationalized their oil industry, they cannot run their own power plants without people not having power and rolling blackouts. There's even whole cities that go without power for weeks on end. And this is a huge sign that the people running the show are failing. Now, we've seen this in New York and California, and we're going to see a lot more of this here in the United States. Now, in 2012, Bernie Sanders came forward and said, Venezuela is now living the American dream that America should have. All right, that guy is a raging idiot and a sellout. And I can't believe people are still, preaching and listening to this guy. I mean, he's just him and his wife are a walking clusterfuck. And he has millions of people just chomping at the bit to follow this guy to whatever end. Which is not going to go anywhere good. All right, now this next one happens in every single one of the dictatorships, socialist, communist areas. They start imprisoning opposition. It gets to a point when enough people aren't working, and enough people are starving, and the basic needs are not being met, that people start getting pissed off, and for the local government to stay in power, people have to go to jail and disappear. Now, there was a minor coup in 2010 in Venezuela that failed, and after that, a lot of people got disappeared, and it started, getting really out of hand from 2018 to 2020. If you'll notice, here in the United States, we go after the opposition by using the NSA, the CIA, the FBI, the IRS, and other branches of our own government to intimidate and scare the citizens of this country into silence. All right, those things are in the media. You can search them yourself. It's happening right now. All right, in 2015, inflation in Venezuela basically exploded, and it imploded their currency to a level which could no longer be controlled. All right, so, typically in every financial system in every country, they have ways to, take off steam or add steam to the system to try to stabilize their economy and currency. Okay, in 2015, it had gotten to such a point that it could no longer be controlled. And, I don't know, their money it's actually worth more if they use it to weave it into, like, baskets. That's what's happened to their currency. Now, right behind that, we have food shortages and, supply shortages. Whenever the money implodes, you're always going to have shortages because that's how shit works, because nothing is fucking free. All right, shit ain't free. It's going to cost something. And if your money is worth nothing, then it gums up the works and shit goes south. And that's just the way it is. It happens all the time, every single time we've tried it, since the beginning of civilization when we started writing stuff down. This is nothing new. All right, and 2017, the Constitution and the elections were suspended, and the country defaulted on its national debt. They basically shut off the elections and suspended the Constitution, mainly because they were losing control, and they wanted to be able to crack down on its own citizens to keep that control. And they could no longer pay their national debt because of all of the doubly discount free shit they were giving everyone. That can't be sustained because, say it with me, nothing is free. All right, now 2018, when they allowed elections to move forward, needless to say, they're rigged. And a lot of the software used in said elections is virtually the same software that was used in certain other elections that we will talk about on another platform. And we'll not talk about them here on YouTube. All right, that leads us into 2019. There has been straight up massacres going on. They're opening fire on protesters. People are getting disappeared in mass to never be seen again. You know, this is only going to get worse. Now, I can say this. Somewhere in that country or nearby in bordering countries are some warehouses full of supplies where people are preparing to do some shit. All right. I don't envision this lasting forever. Sooner or later, it's going to implode even worse than it is, and it might need intervention from outside sources. If you look over in Cuba, where there's mass protests going on now against the communist Cuban government, a lot of the same parallels are taking place, except the people who are in Cuba have had to deal with this problem for a long, long time. And our current administration does not want the voices of the individuals who are protesting against the government in Cuba to make it onto our airways to help break this spell that the youth of our country think that communism and socialism is the way to fix the world. And no one else has just done it right yet. All right, because up until 2006, Venezuela was supposedly the shining beacon of how socialism was supposed to work. Not so much anymore. Because in every single instance, it always fails. And it ends with a lot of people dying. Because you can vote your way into socialism, but you're only going to be able to shoot your way out of it. All right, I've gone on long enough. There's a lot of parallels that are going on between Venezuela and the United States. And the biggest one is simply 30 years ago, Venezuela was the third richest nation in the Western world. And now it has between 3 and 5 million people fleeing the country to get the hell away from the bloodbath that it has become. So if you are here in the United States and you think it can't happen here, you're out of your goddamn mind.